Hello everyone, I am Ashwini Kumar Biswal, roll number 21MF10010 from section 16, and now under the DIY assignment 3, I am going to disassemble this CPU. So as we all know, CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. It is basically the part of the PC where all the computations and processing takes place. And now I am going to disassemble this and disassemble each and every component of it, and in brief explain all of them. So first of all, I am going to show that it is in a working condition. Now here you can see it is very much the light is glowing, you can see, and now I'm going to turn it off, basically shut down. Yes, it is shut down. I'm going to remove the power cable, and I'm going to basically remove this its upper body. So these are the basic architectures that you can see in here in the CPU. So this is our power supply, this is our hard disk, this is our motherboard, this is our processor, this is our RAM, and this is in here the optical disk. So now I'm going to in brief explain the connections in here. From the power supply there is this power cable connection from this to the green board, and from the green board there in here you can see there is power cable connection to the hard disk and to our optical disk also in here. Here you can see this is the cable, and there are also here data cable here connected between this data cable in here going to from the hard disk going to the optical disk. In from there it is going here to the green board. So through that all the data is basically transferred from our CPU to all this between all these three. And now I'm going to disassemble each of them and in brief explain each of them. So this is in here, you can see this is our power supply. So this basically does what is it converts our AC supply that we get in our home to the DC, and that DC further powers up all these components in our CPU. So we can place it here in the side. We can now remove this hard disk. So I removed the data cable and power cable from in here, and now I am removing this hard disk. So here you can see this is a 500 GB hard disk, and hard disk basically does what is that it is like the permanent storage for our CPU. All the files and basically videos, images, whatever we have in our computer, all of them is stored in here in this. And this is in here. These are the RAM. Yes. So this is the RAM. So here you can see this is a 2 GB RAM as written in here, and there are like 8 of these chips. So what is basically mean that each of them has a storage of kind of 125 MB. So this is basically the dynamic, it stores memory dynamically during the time when we run our computer. That time it helps in memory storage. Like RAM is pretty much fast in comparison to that our what hard disk is. It basically remains active during when our computer is in working stage. And with that I assembled it back in its place. So here you can see this is our processor. So you can see this is all the cooling system in here. The processor is inside that. So first we have to remove this, then we can find our, then we can get our processor. This is in here, you can see this is the whole like the cooling system for the processor which is in here. So here is basically a fan which kind of helps in cooling this processor. It is like the heat sink in here, so which kind of absorbs the heat. So here you can see this is the processor. Like all the computations and calculations that takes place in our CPU, it does all of them. Like it is the one of the most important parts in this whole CPU. And now explaining other parts of this motherboard in here. So here you can see like there is another one processor in here with like this cooling system on top of it. And there are like here you can see there are ports in here on this green board. So from there connection are made to our keyboard, monitor, laptops, and mouse, etc. And here you can see there are other slots are also available in here we like these are all video cards and network cards we can insert in there. So this will like give our computer more another more like more features. And you can see in here there are certain chips here also. There are capacitors in here, there are insulators in here, and there are also cables in here connected to this green board. So with this, I am now going to reassemble this our cooling system over the processor. So now I'm going to reassemble this hard disk. So now I'm going to connect the cables, the data cable to this hard disk and the power cable. Again, this power cable in here. So all the connections to our hard disk is done. Now I'm going to place this power supply. So yes, our power supply is placed. And yes, with this, our power supply is perfectly placed. Now I'm going to so our power supply is perfectly placed in here, and now I can just complete its connections. So here is the power cable that goes to the motherboard. So I connected that, and again there is one more connections that go to the motherboard, and yes, so its connection is also done. So the whole architecture is again back in its place, and now I'm going to just close this outer lid. Yes, okay. Yes, thank you. With this, our whole CPU is again reassembled and is in its fine state like the way it was before. And just let's check if it's working fine or not. So I connected the power cable and I turned on the switch. Now here you can see the LED turns on and it is working perfectly fine. So fine, I guess it is working. Yes, it's working. So thank you.